Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today. I'm Susan Pincus. I'm the Careers Advisor with the College of Law in Victoria, and I am going to run the session today on the topic of what to do if you didn't get a clerkship. Just a couple of things. I also have with me my colleague Liz Hurley, who's the Relationship Manager, and she will also be able to answer questions at the end of the session. So if you can just keep in mind with your questions, if you can just ask those at the end of the webinar, and we'll see how we go. If we don't get around to answering all the questions, then what we'll do is print those questions off and we'll respond to you individually via email. The other thing is that the presentation is available via YouTube, so we'll be able to provide the link for that. And also, if you don't mind, if you could complete a survey as well, and we'll also send you the link. That will just be a very quick rundown on what you got out of the session today, and also maybe some ideas for future sessions. So we're going to start and move on. So in terms of the session outline, the main areas that I'm going to cover today are the legal landscape and what employers are looking for. We're going to talk about building resilience and thinking laterally, positioning yourself for opportunities, and also I'm going to just share a couple of insights and quotes from two graduates who have found opportunities going through the non-traditional pathway. So they haven't gone through the clerkship traineeship process. So just a little bit of background on the changing legal landscape. The one thing that is for sure is that we are very much in a changing world of work. We very much live in what we call a VUCA environment, so volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. And the nature of work is going to become more digital and automated, and how work is done will be anytime, anywhere. So if we even just think about the migration of the business onto the internet, the fact that there's a use of a lot more app services, that there's a range of individuals that are delivering tasks around employment contracts, conveyancing, wills, power of attorney, etc., with less face-to-face contact with the client. So the implications of this for you as lawyers is around making sure that you have digital literacy, you're learning how to leverage technology, that you're continuously learning, and that you're developing skills that can't be automated. So it's not the time to stand still and hold on what used to get results. That's no longer possible. The internet and technology are driving changes to services. So it's very, very important that you think as individuals, how can you add value? And we'll be covering that in the session today as well. So what makes you employable? You'll see from this that there are 4 different areas, and employability is a difficult concept to explain, but this diagram illustrates it quite nicely in that it looks at 4 different areas. So the first one is around your skills and your attributes, and your skills consist of your technical skills, so these will actually be your legal skills, as well as some of the non-legal skills, what is commonly referred to as your softer skills, and these are around team working and initiative, planning and organising, communication, relationship building, etc., as well as your attributes. So these are around things like passion and energy, compassion, etc. Then we also have a look at experience, and this is around your work experience, and it's also around your life experience. So these are really, really important. And your qualifications as well. So your law degree and any other qualifications that you might have as well. And then your network. So you can have all the other three, but without the networking, it makes it very, very hard for you to actually get started. So it's very, very critical that everyone actually is able to utilise their network. So here I've incorporated some of the skills that employers are looking for, and there's quite a few, so let me just explain these. So the first one around the entrepreneurial and intrapreneurial and innovative. Then there's commercial awareness, and I think that this is one of the most important skills in that it's around thinking from a business perspective very much through your client's eyes. So it's gaining a sense of what's going on in the business world and how the current economic climate is affecting the way we do business and how organisations operate. So it's really thinking from a broader lens and looking at the wider impact for clients' business than just the legal aspect. It's also about being curious and asking lots of questions and being genuine and having an interest in other people. Agility, diversity and resilience are talked about a lot as being very much critical skills for now and also for the future. And that also leads into kind of the flexibility and adaptability as well. Relationship building is very much about the fact that law is a service industry or a service profession. It's about you being a trusted advisor beyond just law. It's about being the best lawyer and understanding your clients' requirements and how to best service them. And often to be strong at the relationship building side of things, you need a high emotional and social IQ. So it's often picking up what is not being necessarily said. It's looking at other nuances and other kind of cues as well. Business development is also an important skill. It's about asking individuals what they need and how you can help. And particularly in some of the larger law firms, that is a very important skill in that you're able to bring business through the door. Language ability and the global mindset is also very important, particularly that we're living in a global world now. So, you know, gone are the days where it was like more insular. Now we're needing to look through a global mindset and think globally. And the other skill is what I mentioned previously. It's very much about that IT and the digital skills and being able to apply those within a legal framework. And that is something that clients are looking for as well. Okay, so just a couple of things to talk about here, which are really, really important, and they probably come into the attributes when I had that slide before. And it's really, really important, particularly in this where we're talking about what happens if you don't get a clerkship, that you are able to be resilient and you're able to focus and I suppose refocus and reframe your mindset. And we talk about this concept of grit, and that's based on a study that was done by a psychologist called Angela Duckworth and her colleagues. And it actually found that grit is a better predictor of achievement than actual IQ, because grit actually serves as the overriding factor that provides the stamina required to stay the course amidst the challenges and setbacks that are inevitably part of everyone's life. So grit's about having passion and perseverance and stamina, working really, really hard, living life like a marathon, not a sprint. So if your IQ doesn't make you gritty, how do we actually build grit? And the way of doing this is by having a positive growth mindset. And once again, this is according to a study that was done by Professor Carol Dweck. And it talks about this growth mindset. And the growth mindset is about believing in abilities and intelligence that can be developed with effort, learning, and persistence. So this is something that is ongoing. It's not a fixed quantity. Students, on the other hand, or individuals that have a fixed mindset, believe that their basic abilities, their intelligence, and their talents are fixed traits. So it's really, really important that with a growth mindset, you believe that there are numerous stepping stones towards development and improvement. So your mindset's focused on the belief that your basic qualities are cultivable and they're flexible and they can grow with dedication, time, and a commitment to getting better, smarter, and more talented. So this is something that is really, really useful when you're going through the clerkship process. So speaking of which, I think it's really, really important that we keep in mind some of the facts. And some of the facts are that actually there are few students that actually get clerkship offers. So if we run through the numbers and we look at like a top tier law firm, they might receive as a minimum around 500 applications for, say, 35 clerkship positions, and that's nationally across Australia. And that translates into odds of around 7%, meaning that you have a remaining 93% people that don't go down that pathway. And then once you've completed a clerkship, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you a tradieship as well. So when you look at that as well, that also is important to consider. And it's not personal, even though it feels very personal. You mightn't have even got through the stage of going face-to-face in an interview, because there are usually so many different parts of the process that you go to, from psychological tests to cocktail events to video interviews, etc. So it's really, really important to just try and put it in perspective, even though at the time it is very, it makes you feel like quite devalued and despondent. And, you know, there's lots of other things that you can do during your summer and your winter breaks, which are just as valuable. So it's a matter of exploring what your other options are and doing your own version of a clerkship. And we'll talk a lot about that in the next slides. And, you know, I also like to just point out that if you want to be a lawyer, you will be one. There are many paths that will take you down that road. So we're now going to talk about positioning yourself for opportunities, and we're going to talk a little bit about job search strategy. And job search strategy basically involves two different areas: the advertised job market and the hidden job market. And as a rough estimate, a lot of people tend to get focused and caught up in the hidden job market. Sorry, not the hidden job market, the advertised job market. And the problem with the advertised job market is that it is open typically to the general population. So you're competing against a lot more people. Competition is a lot more fierce. Whereas with the hidden job market, you're going more the back door, and positions haven't been advertised. And through going out and networking and talking to people, you're more likely to find those opportunities. So the statistics are that around 30 to 40% of people have success through the advertised job market, whereas a much higher number, 60 to 70%, will actually have success through the hidden job market. But it's really important that you do both. And we'll talk a little bit more about what's involved there. So the advertised job market, I've just included on the left-hand side just some general online sites that you can go on and look at. And of course, you'll know the most familiar ones, which are Seek and Indeed. And then you've also got LinkedIn, which is obviously really, really come into play now, and it's a very, very important tool to use and to get your LinkedIn profile looking very professional, and also to set your profile up with some key words that are indicative and representative of the field that you're in as well. On the right hand side, I have listed a lot of other websites that are more specifically law focused. I've got College of Law as well up there because we advertise a number of different positions, which are ranging from voluntary positions, positions where you can do your PLT, and also other like paralegal roles too. Then there's the LIB jobs portal. Don't forget your university portals as well. There's Beyond Law, Grad Connections and Grad Ops, which are not just legal, they're also general as well. Legal recruitment websites and also Lawyers Weekly. So if you're going to have a look at those and apply for positions, just bear in mind that it is really, really critical, and I absolutely stress this, that you make sure you've got a very, very strong CV, which will typically be evidenced by your achievements. So it'll be very achievement focused and also very skills based. So you'll need to make sure you weave into your documents what your legal and your non-legal skills are, and also some specific achievements as well throughout your studies and also throughout your career as well. And you'll need a tailored cover letter, key selection criteria, etc. Anything that is more generic will end up probably going into the no pile. So really, really important that you work on those documentation. Volunteering opportunities, I have just listed here some of the websites. There are probably so many more, but this is just a few. And the important thing here is that volunteering is just so critical, particularly when you're trying to get experience, and this will help you develop legal skills. It will also help you develop life skills. It will mean that you'll have a lot more stories to share when you're going for interviews, when you're actually going and you're having conversations with people. So it's actually meaning that you've got a more interesting story to share. And volunteering is something that I would say most legal professionals would do. It is very rare that you'll find someone that hasn't done any legal volunteering. And there's a number of different areas, so it's so diverse. You can be working with refugees, you can be working with women, you can be working with youth, you can be working with senior rights, with Indigenous people. Like the variety and the diversity of experience is really quite huge. So now we're going to just focus a little bit about the non-advertised search, and we refer to that as hidden market. So that means that basically those positions aren't advertised to the general population, and you'll only find those opportunities through building your network. And I'll often hear people that will say to me, I don't have a network, I don't know anyone in law. But the interesting thing to remember is that you actually do have a network, and it starts even with your family and with your friends. It can include your lecturers, it can include tutors, it can include work colleagues, other students, and so on. It can even include people that you were involved in through extracurricular activities. It might be through sports that you play, or it might be through book club, etc. So everyone always knows someone that knows someone. So it is absolutely critical to start connecting with people in the field from day one. And you need to have your network set up, and that is something that you will always draw on. So even once you are admitted as a lawyer, you will always need to be networking and connecting with people. It is just something that you do as a professional, because you need to know what's going on. You need to know what trends there are, what challenges are facing the industry, and just have a sounding board. So important that you actually start giving some thought to who's in your network. And thinking about, do you know anyone in a legal role that you could approach? And even though you're probably thinking, my gosh, how am I going to approach anyone? I don't know anyone, or what am I going to say? You'll find that in the legal profession that people actually are very happy to give you time to have a chat, because they were once in the position that you're in as well. So looking at any opportunities to shadow and observe as well is really, really important. So thinking about whether you can just go in and even just follow someone around for the day and get a bit of an idea of what the reality is of that field of law. Conduct an informational interview. So what's a typical day in the life of a human rights lawyer, or someone that's working in IP, or someone that's working in employment law or criminal law? So it's really about getting the practical application and a real understanding of what goes on in those areas of law, because sometimes you might have a particular idea of what a profession or an actual practice area of law is like, and the actual reality could be different. So always good to speak to someone that's actually in the field. The other thing is to target suburban and even country law firms. So, often this is an area that's very untapped, and for whatever reason, I'm not sure, but a lot of people tend to gravitate more towards the city top tier law firms. But I think you get a different experience, often a lot more diverse experience as well in your local suburban law firm. So how do you find those out? You can do it a number of different ways. One of the easiest things is just to get into your car and just to drive around and note all the local law firms, and there will typically be a couple in your area. And also utilising the local law society. They have a find a lawyer service, and you can actually search by area of law and location, and it will give you the contact details, and it will give you the practice areas of the firm as well. You can also research organisations of interest, what their practice areas are and their clients, and also just by following companies as well. So joining relevant groups, participating in industry topics, connecting to alumni, going onto Twitter and following judges and lawyers and barristers, etc. So that's really, really important that you keep up to date. Also, there is a link to Chambers and Partners, and that basically is an online link that ranks law firms and lawyers in over 180 jurisdictions worldwide. So you can actually search firms by region. Australia would come under Asia Pacific. You can also look at the location, say within Australia, and also the practice area. And what it will do is it will just give you a whole list of different law firms and the areas that they practice in, and then it will tell you about the partners, the typical clients, and the work that they do. Lawyers Weekly is also another thing to look at. It gives you online articles on all legal matters. The only thing with it is that you'll just get bombarded a little bit, so you might just want to work out how you cope with that, because they give you updates a couple of times a day. But that's also a good way of just keeping up to date, and I think they have a jobs link as well. Also, just the Australian, the AFR, they have a Friday legal section as well, and that's always quite interesting to read about anything kind of that's happening in the field and the profession. So in terms of, where else to find opportunities, I mean, it really is about being involved, talking to people, being curious, asking lots of questions, out and about, as opposed to, you know, at home just applying for jobs online and not getting any response, which can happen. So join your local law society. You can also join a committee as part of the society. So there'll be committees around community issues, law reform, later lawyers, where they might meet on a monthly basis. So they might have like a social event. So be active and being involved and finding out when you can join these committees, because sometimes, you know, you'll have to go through a process where you might have to actually complete some applications and documents. The other thing is specific legal interest associations. So you've got, for example, if you've got an interest in human rights, you can link into the United Nations AA, as well as the Caston Centre for Human Rights Law. And the Caston Centre, for example, if you go on their website, they offer a number of global internships to different countries, from New York, South Africa, KL and Geneva. And they open around July in each year. So that is really important for you kind of to know that date, and therefore to kind of work backwards in terms of your commitments, because obviously, you know, everyone's busy, everyone's managing and juggling work, family, etc., and their studies. Other committees that you might want to think about are called Legal Forecast and Legal Hackers. Just very, very quickly, Legal Forecast is a not-for-profit, and that's run by early career professionals, and they're into disruptive thinking and access to social justice. So it's very much designed as a community for law students and early career legal professionals. And they believe that technology has an important role to play in legal practice and access to justice. The other one's Legal Hackers, and that's more of a global movement, and that consists of lawyers, policymakers, technologists, academics, etc. They explore and develop solutions to some of the most pressing issues where law and technology cross over. So they run local meetups, they run hackathons, they run workshops. So if any of those areas interest you, then, you know, maybe just check out those online. The other thing is if you have a gift for writing, and I imagine that if you're studying law, you would be reasonably strong at writing, why not look at getting involved in the Young Lawyers blog or the Young Lawyers Journal? Even writing at your university, they often have a magazine too where they might be looking for volunteers to be involved. Important to set up a professional LinkedIn profile, and also just to make sure your marketing collateral such as your CV, your cover letter, etc. is also fits within kind of the benchmark of what's required in the field. Know what to say when you're introducing yourself as well, and always ask for further contacts in the profession. It's just a matter of asking, do you know anyone else that would be good for me to talk to? And don't be afraid to ask for that. You'll find that most people will be able to refer you on as well. And just follow up with a nice thank you email as well, because you want to keep in contact with people. It's not just a matter of using that person as a way of getting information. You always need to be authentic when you are actually having conversations with people, because people can see through you if you are being very calculating and you're not being I suppose upfront about it. It's very, very important that you kind of come from a place of being humble, and also just to show your gratitude and your appreciation, because people are giving up their time as well. So it's also even, you know, worth your while building a 30-second pitch. So, you know, thinking about who you are. Are you, you know, you're a student, what year you are, do you have any interest areas in law, why did you study law, what do you do? So outside of university, are you involved in any work experience that's law related, not law related? What are some of your points of difference? So do you have any particular language skills? Have you lived overseas? Have you had any voluntary experience that might set you apart? Anything like that, that does give you a little bit of a point of difference is really, really important. And what are you aiming for? So it's really, really important that if you want to actually develop a pitch, that at the end you're actually saying, so I would welcome the opportunity to meet with you to find out more about human rights law or about what's involved in IP law. And it's just good to have that rehearsed and prepared, because you will be giving your pitch often, particularly when you're going into kind of interview scenarios as well, often other situations where you're introducing yourself. So make sure it's interesting, it's engaging, it's a conversation starter, it needs to be relevant. Stay away from jargon and vague motherhood kind of statements, and once again, the importance of being authentic. We'll talk a little bit more about mentoring now, and I can't stress to you how important it is that you are able to find a mentor. And there are a number of different ways to find a mentor, and one of them is just to even look through your local law society. So they kick off normally at the beginning of the calendar year. So once again, work out, go online, when does the mentor program start? What do you need to do? Do you need to have your resume updated? Do you need to put a cover letter together to send off to talk about what your interest areas are, etc.? There's also like the bar associations in each state. Some of those also offer opportunities for you to shadow a barrister, or even to do some work experience with them, or just to even meet and have a cup of coffee and just kind of ask some questions. So, keep in mind that there are a number of opportunities to find mentors. There's also going and networking, going to industry events as well, going to those forums where you're with people that are in the same field, asking questions, being curious and seeing whether there are any opportunities there. Asking them, what they would suggest, even in terms of how you go about finding a mentor. And through your volunteering, working at a not-for-profit, often you will develop links and working relationships with people that you'll find may even organically kind of become a mentor to you as well. Also, university mentoring programs are something to get on board with too. They might offer peer mentoring where you might be mentored by a later year law student, so that's something to be aware of. Also, some universities might run actual mentoring programs where you are matched up with someone from the profession. So that's also important that you keep your eyes and ears open for that. And no reason why you can't have more than one mentor, apart from like obviously time involved, but if you're having a couple of mentors from different areas, it just gives you a wider lens and gives you more perspectives and learning opportunities as well. So everyone needs a mentor, and you'll find that most people have got to where they have got because they've had a mentor. And often, mentors will also talk to you about how you can find opportunities and give you some advice around how to position yourself as well. Now, I'm just going to share a couple of quotes from two people around how they have gone around and how they've developed a mindset to deal with the fact that they didn't go through the clerkship or the traineeship process. So I'm going to actually just read these because I think that they're really, really valuable, and there's some great stuff in these. So the first one is, I remember my parents saying to me, when I commenced my law degree, that it's not where you start, it's where you finish. This resonated with me throughout my university degree. Given the strong competition, obtaining a clerkship was always going to be tough. Obtaining a clerkship, whilst helpful, is not the golden ticket for obtaining a graduate position, far from it. Picking up a volunteer job at the local community legal centre, shadowing a barrister around for a couple of weeks, doing something worthwhile in the community, or getting involved with a charity looks just as good, if not better, on your applications for graduate positions. My 3 closest friends at university, including myself, did not secure a clerkship during our time at uni. Where are they now? Well, they're currently employed at IBAC, Thompson Gear and Core Chambers Westgar. One final piece of advice is to lower your expectation and you'll get to where you're going. The other one, I think back to when I got knocked back from all of my clerkship applications. And in fact, I think it was one of the best outcomes that could have happened. It led me to really think hard about what I wanted and who I wanted to work for. And given that experience, I ended up in a great role at the ACCC. The other really important lesson I learned from the experience is to focus on the process, not the outcomes. So I got knocked back. That in itself is not important. What matters is, what did I learn and what am I doing to create the future I want? So I hope that you take some good insights out of those 2 quotes. They're verbatim, and I think, you know, there's some really, really powerful messages in that. And I like that particularly, you know, it's about not focusing on the process, focusing on the process, not the outcomes, is really, really important. And also, yeah, just thinking that there are other ways as well. There's always other pathways, other ways to get to where you want. And that's where that importance of resilience and adaptability comes in. So I've just put in here action plans. So maybe, you know, even thinking about what you might take away from today's session. 2 actions, what's your action, the date that you'll achieve it by, steps to achieve this, and how I know this has been achieved. So if you can start planning, the earlier the better. It's really, really critical, because often internships, volunteering, mentor programs, they have dates that they start. So if you know what those dates are, if it's April, if it's July next year, then you can actually start already building that into your very, very busy schedule. So that's really important that you factor your time plans in. So now, any questions? If you've got any questions, yeah, please let me know and we can start working on those. Okay. I'm not sure if there are any questions. Okay. I missed the first half of the presentation. If you just are able, we'll send you the YouTube link and you'll be able to listen to the whole presentation. So that's not a problem. We'll make a note of that and just make sure that you get that. The next question is about how much importance do employers place on your marks. I think that it once again depends on how where you're aiming to go into. So if you are looking at a lot of the commercial law firms, the top tier and mid tier, then I would say that, to be really honest, that results are important, but results are never the be all end all. So they'll look at the whole person. So, you know, hence it's what you do outside of university as well that's really, really important. So just making sure that you've had lots of different experiences, that you've been able to get some legal work experience, that you do some volunteering, you're involved at uni, that type of thing. Okay, what would be your advice for obtaining volunteering opportunities, given it is also competitive? Look, that's a great question, and it's hard. Oh, okay, Liz, sorry. Liz, you go ahead. Liz is going to answer this question. Sorry, just one moment. Oh, okay, all right. So the question was about how do you go about getting volunteering opportunities because they're so competitive. I would just keep trying. I mean, look, there are so many websites with so many opportunities, and even, you know, just popping into some of the local community legal centre near where you live, just so that you're able to perhaps go in, prepare what you might say, and show that you're really, really excited and passionate about making a difference. So, you know, I really, really think that there is a lot of volunteering out there. It's just a matter of you being persistent, and it will happen. There's another question in terms of alternative pathways where you can still utilise your legal skills but you don't want to work as a commercial firm. Look, absolutely, there are so many different opportunities. I don't know where to start, but basically there, you know, if you look at like where you can end up going, legal in-house is definitely a great option. There are a lot of those legal in-house roles. You can go into some of the big government departments as well, like the ACCC, ASIC as well. You can go into, you know, management consulting. You can go into what else can you do? You can go into some of the big four firms. You know, that is just a kind of the beginning. So yeah, definitely lots of other pathways. College law marks as important as marks in a law degree. They are not as important, so it's important that you just give it your best, and that you know, you're not going to, I don't even think you'll need to necessarily share your College of Law marks. You might be asked in some cases for your transcript, but that would be much more so for your law degree as opposed to your PLT. In terms of mature age students and in the regional area, I would say that it is really very much about how you pitch yourself. So how you go about showing your life experience and your transferable skills, how they come into play when you're looking at roles. So it's very, very much about making sure that you're playing up your transferable skills and you're able to leverage these skills through your previous work experience. So, you know, later lawyers have a lot of life experience, which goes a long way. And in terms of remote students, that is like, I suppose in a regional area, it's just making sure that you are resilient and that you keep on kind of looking at different options as well, and that you're kind of keeping on the radar. So, you know, really, really kind of staying connected. I'm just having a look at some of the next questions. What is your advice for pressing employers that you have previously applied to if there is any other unadvertised work like paralegal, how much persistence is too much? Yeah, that's a really good question. Look, I think it's a matter of just making sure that you don't kind of become a stalker. No one wants to be a stalker. So I think there is no harm in just saying, you know, I'm really keen to explore other opportunities in your organisation, and it's up to you to keep trying in that firm as well. They're not going to keep your CV on file and get in touch with you. It's very much about you driving the process. So I would actually say yes, yeah, keep in touch. Volunteering opportunities for working on weekends. You're already working Monday to Friday. There are some websites where you can actually put down that you're only available on weekends, and there would be, like, I know, night shifts as well. There are some, but I don't know if that's not probably going to work for you. But I think it's just a matter of asking those questions and seeing what you can find. Okay. I'm doing a combined accounting and law degree. What do you think I should focus on my job search areas? Well, that's yeah, that's a good question. Look, there are so many different areas. You could look into the commercial law space. You could look at the investment banks. You could look at some of the consulting companies. You could also look at government, like the, you know, ASIC, the ACCC. There's also the Fair Work, FOS, the Ombudsman Service, like Financial Ombudsman Services. There's a number of different areas there that you could have a look at. It just depends on really what your interests and your passion areas are. You just need to go out and find out, and whether, you know, they fit with you. How long after graduating are you still considered a graduate and eligible to apply for a graduate program? I don't want to quote you on that because I wouldn't like to mislead you. I thought that it was maybe 1 year, but I think that when you read in the actual criteria, it would typically give you that information. So, you know, really important that you get that right too. I think that probably will just bring us to an end here, and I'm so sorry that we're going to wrap it up, but the remaining questions that I've still got, we will endeavour to get back to within, you know, the next few days, and to actually answer those. The other thing I just wanted to say as well is just to make sure that you know, you use the services available as well. So, you know, don't hesitate to make contact with Liz Hurley, who works in the Victorian office, and also myself here as a careers advisor as well. So I hope that the session has been valuable to you, and I suppose, you know, that the key message to take away from today is that there are lots of different ways, and not to give up, and people will find their ways no matter what if you're really, really tenacious and resilient. Thanks very much for your time.